From a new lease on life to orphan babies that wouldn't have survived otherwise, sometimes sad stories have very happy endings. These people went above and beyond to help their fellow creatures, sometimes saving their lives in the process. Animals can bring so much enrichment to our lives, if only we'd let them. Today we have 15 stories of people who adopted some stranded, abandoned animals and gave them a new lease on life. Many are wild animals that might not have ever asked for the help, but managed to find the right person at the right time. Make sure you keep your tissues handy, because we have some on today's list that can bring a tear to just about anyone's eye. You'll just have to watch through to the end to see what I mean. Make sure you leave a like down below and subscribe with post notifications for more amazing videos like this. Now, let's get into it. Abandoned baby foal saved from a mountainside. Rescuing a horse on the side of a mountain isn't always a safe task, but these brave souls trespassed to save an abandoned baby horse. The massive mountainside area is home to many horses that were abandoned without care. After some searching, the woman could locate the young, struggling baby horse. He couldn't have been all that old, just a few hours. He was there clearly struggling from dehydration, needing nutrition in a bad way. These kind people were taking their time helping him after being abandoned by his mother in the sun. It was a hot summer day, and he might not have made it much longer without their quick decisions and movement's help. The two took him to a Tractor Supply and bought him the food he desperately needed before getting him professional care. It's a happy ending all around. Koala rescued via canoe from floodwaters. In what is likely the cutest rescue, a stranded koala was lucky enough to run into some college students. He managed to get himself stuck in a tree as the water levels rose a little too high. Suddenly, there was no safe way for the little guy to get down. He wouldn't have been able to make it. However, lucky for him, a few college students in a canoe were able to retrieve him and bring him back where he belonged. Generally speaking, koalas aren't very comfortable with people in the wild. But given the dire circumstances, he may not have known this would be his only way out to shore. The students had acted quickly, doing what they could, despite not knowing if it would work, and they may have saved the little guy's life. Monkey spent 8 years in a box, finally freed. This little monkey was trapped nearly his whole life in a box. While we're not clear how he got in the box in the first place, it's clear he'd been stolen as a baby from his parents and sold young in a wildlife market. This is the real fate of animals across Thailand and other Southeastern Asian countries. George's owner allowed him to run free for a time, but he quickly became too difficult as he is a wild animal. The owner built a wooden cage and locked him inside, feeding George corn, bananas, and leftover food through the bars with an occasional sip of water. However, he no longer had the key to the padlock, meaning that when it came time to rescue George, they had to break open the top and pull him through. The team then destroyed the cage to ensure no other animal would be kept inside it. In his new surroundings, George was bright and excited to take in the sights, and he was even given water for free access for the first time in his life, something he had seemed more than happy to take advantage of. He's mostly healthy, but it will only get better with time. With proper nutrition and exercise, George was given a brand new lease on life. Strays and abandoned pets rescued in Ukraine. Many pets were left behind in Ukraine amid the current crisis. However, there's a German organization setting up a shelter for pets stranded in the chaos. Volunteers attempt to comfort the terrified, abandoned dogs in a makeshift shelter in the small Polish village of Medaka. The pets were not abandoned willingly, only left behind by refugees with no other choice. Some of the volunteers had been leaving letters behind, hoping to reunite pets with their owners after some time. It's not just abandoned pets, though, because they look after street animals in the war zone. The organization is gathering aid to take on some of the larger cities, organizing groups to drive into the areas and deliver food for the animals. Directly in these war zones, there's nowhere to simply pick up food. Luckily, they've been able to stop and pick up food on their way, driving it to the line of fire to help care for them. The situation is hard for everyone involved, especially the animals who can't understand what's happened. We can only hope that those who have been tearfully left behind can someday find their way home. Stray cat finally has a safe home. Help comes from unexpected places. This curious kitty probably didn't see the help coming from when he was caught by this human. Found on the streets, he suddenly had a home with other animals, a safe place to live, and food. While he's clearly freaked out, the trust this cat displays shows just how willing he was to be helped. The man was able to bring him in and wash the street cat, all without freaking him out too much. Eventually, you can see how grateful and comfortable he looks, finally content in his new home with a loving family. Orphan Joey nursed back to health. Being orphaned in the outback can be a death sentence for a little baby kangaroo. Amid the brush fires, little Gigi managed to be a heartwarming success story. Before the event, the area would have been filled with hundreds of kangaroos, but he had been left behind. Gigi was terrified and lucky to be alive. They found the Joey covered in burns, bringing him to a rescue and doing everything they could to help the little guy survive. Despite all the odds, the little guy managed to not only pull through, but become a sweet, friendly animal with a gentle nature that made the team really want to fight for his survival. It worked, and after all their sleepless nights, rebandaging and giving him plenty of antibiotics helped pull him through. Eventually, they could return him to the company of other animals. He loved being around other kangaroos. As soon as they could get his feet healed, he joined a special enclosure. It took them some time to get Gigi to come out of his shell, but he's happy in a larger enclosure with plenty of patience and kindness. He won't rejoin the wild, but they have a massive 80 acres of bushland and wet grassland that feels just like the wild. He put up a big fight to survive and came out on the other side a kind, gentle kangaroo. The best thing that could have come out of this. Since you've made it this far in the video, make sure you leave a like down below. And if you want other videos like this, make sure you're subscribed to the channel with post notifications turned on. That way you'll never miss a single video. Street dogs rescued and brought to safety from Ukraine. This nonprofit called Transform a Street Dog has been helping disabled and abandoned animals out of Ukraine since 2018. But since the recent invasion, they recently were turned upside down, left with 35 dogs and just 15 staff members in the middle of a war zone. They evacuated to Austria, housing the animals in safety and partnering with neighboring European countries, as they were able to not just get their initial batch of animals to safety, but hundreds of others too. Despite all the good work, there's still a long way to go. War is decimating the country, and animals are left behind, finding themselves stranded without any other way out. Lucky for them, there are guardian angels out there, in the form of people willing to go out of their way to help them to safety. Joey Rescue nurses undersized Roo back to health. Enid Latham has been hand-raising Joeys for years, but none need help like this pint-sized Jack. It answered a call for help when a kangaroo was killed by a car, which orphaned the little baby. Her specialized care helps the undersized Jack get to full weight and make it through to the next crucial 48 hours away from his mother. She's committed to care, acting as a kind, gentle guardian angel to these kangaroos and doing everything in her power to help these kangaroos make it. Their goat milk seems to be key for them, as the goats have managed to create an immunity to local disease, and it becomes her secret weapon. She's so well suited for the care, she has perfectly recreated the warmth and comfort of a mama kangaroo's pouch. Surrounded by smaller Joeys who all live in comfort and happiness, able to grow and socialize among other Joeys, which is important in their development. The ultimate goal here is to help them grow just enough to free them back to the bush, but they wouldn't have been able to do it without the kind, committed kangaroo foster mom they were lucky enough to be saved by. Jack is just one of the hundreds of others, but his success story is always worth celebrating. Cockatoo lives out the rest of her life loved. Not all rescues are success stories, but Ramona lived out the rest of her days fully loved by her new family. The parrot crisis killed many parrots and cockatoos as they were thrown away. She'd been neglected and abused, her feathers plucked out by other animals. Due to the intensive care she needed, families couldn't handle her, and she had been returned repeatedly. Madeline took her in and gave the cockatoo a second lease on life. It was unfortunate that the animal passed suddenly, as Madeline hadn't seen it coming, but the fungus in her lungs suddenly took her overnight. Many birds are abandoned and die without ever being loved. While this story may not have the happiest endings, it's important to remember that she was at least happier than some. Madeline clearly loved the animal and would have taken her in regardless of the illness, but was sad, as she'd been ready to provide the bird a happy, loving, forever home. This little bit of kindness would have made all the difference in the bird's life, no matter how short it might have been. If you had the resources, would you be willing to take in an animal in need, just like we've seen today? It's not possible for everyone, but sometimes just an in-between home is what creatures need. Most wild animals don't rely on people, but some really do. Do you have a rescue at home? Let us know your stories below in the comments. We'd love to hear them. Wolf dog rescued as family pet and returned to a sanctuary. Sometimes you don't realize the full story of an animal you take into your care. When this Arizona native took on a free puppy, he only expected to provide a loving home to an abandoned animal in need. This dog named Neo was a little needier and skittish, but otherwise a normal puppy. Eventually, these became warning signs as the dog began to outsmart the fences surrounding his property. One of these encounters led to a neighbor bringing the dog to a local humane society, revealing its real nature. Instead of a normal shepherd, this dog was a high-content wolf dog, meaning a hybrid between a dog and a wolf. Many of its behavioral and physical attributes were more closely aligned with a wolf, which also means they're illegal to own in most states. Unfortunately, Arizona being that. Neo was brought to a sanctuary for similar animals. It took him a while, but eventually he could escape his isolation kennel and join the pack seamlessly for their nightly howl. His behavior became more normal, as it was quickly understood he wasn't just an odd dog, but a normally behaving wolf dog. Owning a wolf might not be a good idea, but at least this guy got his happy ending. Baby monkey finds goat best friend when he loses his mother. When animals lose their mothers, it can be an extremely traumatic experience. Luckily, sometimes they're lucky enough to be adopted and cared for, which can instantly change their whole lives. This baby monkey might not have made it in the wild, but he was quickly bonded to a baby goat, to who he hangs off and clings. This is a success story, even though it would have been better if he could have stayed home. He's well fed, cared for, and happy with his new goat. They are inseparable, being fed fruit in their wide open enclosure together. Sometimes help can come from the most unexpected places, and a little bit of love can go a long way. Rescue baby elephant joins orphan pack and quickly bonds. This orphan baby elephant was given a new lease on life by the David Sheldrick Elephant Orphanage outside of Nairobi. They've been rearing orphaned elephants in herds to be released into the wild. The concern was whether they could bring home a much younger special baby elephant into a more established group, and whether the creatures could show the needed empathy to help them along the way. Elephants have incredible emotional intelligence, and it helped the small orphan baby elephant transition from life with human handlers to one in the pack. Baby Undodo is small and special needs, but took very quickly to the new pack, much like a small baby who wants to touch and be connected to her mother. The rescuers believe that the older elephants understand what happened to the baby Undodo and how he lost her mother, so they're willing to help and understand what happened to the baby and help him become more well-suited for life without human help. He quickly can bond with the other orphaned elephants, but there's still a tearful goodbye between him and the humans who saved him. Elephants don't forget anything, so this little one will likely remember how the people saved him for the rest of his life. He's much better off with the other elephants, but this was the guiding hand he needed to grow and become more well-adjusted after tragedy struck him down. We have just one more, and rest assured this one is one of the kindest, most amazing stories we have. Have you heard of a similar story that you think we missed out on? Let us know, and maybe you'll see your choice in a future video. If you want more amazing, engaging, and sometimes downright wild content, go ahead and subscribe to the channel for us. And while you're at it, make sure you hit the notification bell so you never miss a single video. Workhorse saved and cared for by ranch inspires a rescue operation. Unfortunately, when a horse is made for work, they require much care and maintenance. This abandoned horse's hooves had overgrown to the point that it was painful and difficult for him to move, and he was underweight and malnourished. He was rescued from a kill pen, and quickly the ranch began to help him by trimming his feet. He seemed so happy and grateful, fully understanding the gravity of the situation, as Colby took to the humans easily. Unfortunately, this often means death for these animals, so the rescuers had come at the perfect time. Colby may have been their first rescue, but it was hardly their last. After him came 80 other horses, almost all of which have been ex-workhorses just the same. Usually this means death, as these animals can no longer work and are left behind. But luckily, there's someone out there fighting for them and making sure they get a second chance at a happy and fulfilling life. Dog rescued after being stranded in a storm. While sitting across from their vacation home, this couple saw a dog sitting across from their house. 3 weeks ago, a massive storm, Hurricane Laura, had torn through and abandoned her there. After posting for some help trapping this dog, the couple went out to go help. The initial plan was just to get there, but when they realized it was an uninhabitable marsh area, they were concerned for the dog and its well-being. It took a while. The dog was terrified of them and wouldn't even come to the pile of food that they had set out for her. Then they were worried she was just too smart for the trap and wouldn't come. So they decided to drop down to just one person, and she spent some time telling the dog everyone was going to be okay and trying to coax her out with kindness. After hours, the dog finally broke, confident enough to eat some of the kibbles from her hand. While it was still slow and she pulled back every few bites, she was able to pet the dog and pull her in the last time. It seemed like that was what it took. They were able to hold on to her the entire boat ride and bring her home, saving her from starving on that island and earning her trust in the meantime. When no one came forward to claim her, they found her a loving foster home, and it's like she's a brand new dog. After such a traumatic experience in the storm, it's hard to imagine a happier ending. Puppies saved from the middle of the road. If not for their guardian angel, these puppies lying in the middle of the road probably would have been in danger. This man helped rescue a puppy from the middle of the road when he saw the little guy on his back. The puppy's mother was quick to ask for help, knowing she needed someone there to help her. When the man brought the dog to a nearby vet, you can just tell how grateful and happy she was, like she fully understands how lucky they were to have come across this person. She watched as the little guy got help, wagging her tail and watching on. This man definitely saved a puppy's life and gave the dog a new chance. Next time you're driving down a road, maybe keep an eye out. As it turns out, when animals need help, they'll sometimes be more than willing to stop and ask a friendly person. Alright, that's it for today. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to Forever Green, and hit that bell icon for more. We'll see you on the next one.